Welcome back to Crown Black Heroes, where we bring you the stories of courage and resilience that prove the human spirit cannot be broken. Today, I'm going to tell you about a 17-year-old kid who went to a party with some friends. Just a normal teenager doing what teenagers do. And that one night destroyed his life. He was accused of a crime he didn't commit. The police ignored evidence that would have cleared him. His court-appointed lawyer barely defended him. An all-white jury convicted him, and a judge sentenced this 17-year-old black kid to 28 years in prison for something he didn't do. 28 years. He would be 45 years old before he got out. His entire youth, his 20s, his 30s, stolen. Most people in that situation would break. They'd give up. They'd let the system crush them. But Jarrett Adams refused to accept injustice. While sitting in his prison cell, with no legal training, with nothing but access to a prison library, Jarrett started studying law. He studied every legal book he could get his hands on. He learned about appeals, about constitutional rights, about how the justice system works and how it fails. And after fighting for almost a decade, Jarrett proved his innocence and won his freedom. But that's not where the story ends, because Jarrett didn't just walk away and try to forget what happened to him. He went to law school, he became a lawyer, and then he went back to the same prison where he was wrongfully held, and he started freeing other innocent people. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we bring you these powerful true stories every single week. And if this story moves you, if it makes you believe in the power of determination and justice, smash that like button and drop a comment. Now, let me tell you about Jarrett Adams, the man who went from inmate to attorney and turned his nightmare into his mission. We begin in the summer of 1998. Jarrett Adams is 17 years old, living in Chicago. He's just a regular kid, not in trouble, not involved in gangs, just trying to enjoy his summer before his senior year of high school. Jarrett and two friends decide to take a trip to Wisconsin for a college party. It's the kind of spontaneous decision that teenagers make, not thinking too much about it, just looking for some fun. They drive up to a campus in Wisconsin, go to a party where there's drinking and music, and college kids hanging out. At some point during the night, a young white woman at the party gets extremely intoxicated. What happens next is disputed and unclear, but what's not disputed is that Jarrett and his friends had some kind of interaction with this woman. The next day, the woman reports to police that she was sexually assaulted. She's traumatized, confused about exactly what happened, but she identifies Jarrett and his two friends as the people involved. The police arrest Jarrett and his friends. Jarrett is shocked. He maintains from the very beginning that he didn't assault anyone, that any interaction that occurred was consensual, that this is a terrible misunderstanding. But this is 1998 in Wisconsin. Jarrett is a young black man from Chicago. The alleged victim is a young white woman, and there's a long, horrific history in America of black men being falsely accused of sexual assault against white women, accusations that have led to lynchings, to wrongful convictions, to destroyed lives. Jarrett is terrified, but he believes that the truth will come out, that the justice system will protect him because he's innocent. Jarrett's family can't afford a good lawyer. He's assigned a public defender, a court-appointed attorney who is overworked and underpaid. Public defenders do important work, and many are dedicated professionals, but they're also drowning in caseloads. They don't have the resources or the time to properly investigate and defend every case. Jarrett's public defender does minimal preparation for his trial. There are witnesses who could testify that Jarrett wasn't even present during the time the alleged assault occurred. There's evidence that could establish reasonable doubt, but the public defender doesn't call these witnesses, doesn't present this evidence. The defense is minimal, almost non-existent. Meanwhile, the prosecution paints Jarrett as a predator, as someone who came from Chicago to prey on vulnerable white college students. They use every racial stereotype, every fear that white jurors might have about young black men. They don't need much evidence because they have something more powerful in that courtroom: racial prejudice. Jarrett's trial takes place in a county that is overwhelmingly white. The jury is all white. Not a single black person sits on that jury. Studies have shown that all white juries in cases involving black defendants and white victims are significantly more likely to convict than racially diverse juries. This isn't speculation. This is documented fact. And Jarrett is facing exactly that situation. The trial is short. The evidence against Jarrett is thin. There's no physical evidence linking him to an assault. The alleged victim's testimony is confused and contradictory, which is understandable given her intoxication, but which should also create reasonable doubt about what actually happened. But the jury doesn't need strong evidence. They see a young black man accused of assaulting a young white woman, and their decision is already made. The jury deliberates and returns with the verdict: guilty. Jarrett Adams, 17 years old, is convicted of a crime he didn't commit. At sentencing, the judge shows no mercy. 28 years in prison. Jarrett's mother is in the courtroom, and she collapses when she hears the sentence. 28 years. Her son, who is just going to a party, who is just being a teenager, is going to spend the next 3 decades behind bars. Jarrett himself is in shock. This can't be real. This can't be happening. He's innocent. How can this be happening? Jarrett is sent to Waupun Correctional Institution in Wisconsin, a maximum security prison. He's 17 years old, and he's thrown into an adult prison with violent offenders. He's terrified. Prison is brutal, especially for someone so young. There's violence, there are gangs, there's a constant threat of assault. Jarrett has to learn quickly how to survive, how to navigate this world, how to protect himself. But even as he's dealing with the daily terror and dehumanization of prison life, Jarrett is consumed by one thought: I am innocent, and I have to prove it. Jarrett's public defender files an appeal, but it's pro forma, going through the motions without real effort or belief. The appeal is denied. The system has spoken. Jarrett Adams is guilty, and he will serve his 28 years. But Jarrett refuses to accept this. He starts spending every moment he can in the prison library. He reads law books, learning legal terminology, learning about criminal procedure, about constitutional rights, about how appeals work. He has no formal legal training, no law degree, but he starts to educate himself. He's essentially teaching himself to be a lawyer from inside a prison cell. Jarrett learns about a case called Batson v. Kentucky, a Supreme Court decision that prohibits prosecutors from excluding potential jurors based solely on race. He reads about his own trial transcripts, which he requests and studies obsessively, and he discovers something that makes his blood boil. During his trial, during jury selection, the prosecutor used peremptory challenges to strike the only potential black jurors from the pool. This is exactly what Batson prohibits. But his public defender never objected, never raised the issue. This should have been grounds for appeal, for a mistrial, but because his lawyer didn't object at the time, it's much harder to raise on appeal. Jarrett realizes that his lawyer's incompetence contributed directly to his conviction. If he'd had competent representation, he might never have been convicted. Jarrett starts writing letters. He writes to legal organizations, to innocence projects, to law professors, to anyone who might help. Most of his letters go unanswered or receive polite rejections. Everyone is sympathetic, but resources are limited, and there are thousands of people claiming innocence. Jarrett's case doesn't stand out. He's already been convicted, his appeals have been denied, and from the outside, he's just another inmate claiming he's innocent. But Jarrett doesn't give up. He keeps writing, keeps studying, keeps fighting. Years pass. Jarrett is in his early 20s now, watching his youth slip away inside prison walls. He watches other inmates give up, lose hope, break down. He sees men who came in with fight in their eyes gradually become hollow. But Jarrett refuses to let prison break him. He uses anger and injustice as fuel. Every day that he's wrongfully imprisoned is another day that strengthens his determination to prove his innocence and to make sure this doesn't happen to others. Finally, after years of letter writing, Jarrett gets a response that changes everything. The Wisconsin Innocence Project, an organization that works to exonerate wrongfully convicted people, agrees to take his case. They start investigating, and what they find is shocking. They discover that there were witnesses who could have testified that Jarrett wasn't present during the alleged assault. These witnesses were never interviewed by Jarrett's public defender. They discover evidence that was never presented at trial, and they discover that the constitutional violation regarding jury selection, the Batson issue that Jarrett identified himself, is clear and egregious. The Wisconsin Innocence Project builds a compelling case that Jarrett's conviction was the result of ineffective assistance of counsel and constitutional violations. They file a new appeal, this time with professional lawyers armed with evidence and legal arguments that Jarrett's original attorney never presented. The appeals process is slow and frustrating. Legal proceedings move at a glacial pace, and every delay means more time that Jarrett sits in prison for a crime he didn't commit. But in 2007, almost 10 years after Jarrett was convicted, the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals reviews his case and issues a stunning decision. The court finds that Jarrett's constitutional rights were violated. The court finds that his trial lawyer provided ineffective assistance of counsel. The court overturns his conviction. Jarrett Adams is going home. After nearly a decade in prison, after years of fighting and studying and refusing to give up, Jarrett is exonerated. He walks out of Waupun Correctional Institution a free man. He's 27 years old. He should have been in college, should have been starting a career, should have been building a life. Instead, he spent his late teens and his entire 20s locked in a cage for something he didn't do. The state of Wisconsin offers no apology, no compensation. Jarrett has to rebuild his life from nothing. Many exonerees struggle after release. They have no resources, often suffer from PTSD, find it difficult to reintegrate into society. But Jarrett has a plan. While in prison, while studying all those law books, while teaching himself the legal system that failed him, Jarrett discovered his calling. He's going to become a lawyer. He's going to use the knowledge he gained fighting for his own freedom to fight for others. People think he's crazy. He has no college degree. He spent 10 years in prison. Law schools don't typically accept people with his background. But Jarrett is determined. He enrolls in community college, earning his undergraduate degree. He studies for the LEST, the law school entrance exam, and then he applies to law schools, telling his story, explaining that he wants to dedicate his life to fighting wrongful convictions. Several law schools reject him, but Loyola University Chicago School of Law sees something special in Jarrett's application. They see a man who taught himself law in a prison library, who fought for his own freedom with nothing but determination and intelligence. They admit him to their law school. Jarrett throws himself into his legal education with the same intensity he brought to his self-education in prison. He already knows more about criminal procedure and appeals than most first-year law students because he lived it. He excels in his classes. He works with the law school's Innocence Project clinic, helping to investigate cases of people who claim they were wrongfully convicted. In 2015, at age 34, Jarrett Adams graduates from law school and passes the bar exam. He is officially a lawyer. Think about that journey. From a 17-year-old kid wrongfully convicted and sentenced to 28 years, to a lawyer who earned his degree and passed one of the hardest exams in the professional world. Jarrett doesn't just want to practice law. He wants to help exonerate wrongfully convicted people, especially people like him who were failed by the system. He starts working with the Innocence Project and takes on cases of people serving long sentences for crimes they didn't commit. And in 2018, Jarrett takes on a case that brings his journey full circle. A man named Richard Baranick has been imprisoned for decades for a murder he maintains he didn't commit. And where is Richard Baranick incarcerated? Waupun Correctional Institution, the exact same prison where Jarrett spent 10 years of his life. Jarrett is now walking into that prison as an attorney, wearing a suit, there to fight for someone's freedom instead of fighting for his own survival. The guards who once controlled every aspect of Jarrett's life now have to treat him with professional courtesy because he's a lawyer there on official business. The emotional weight of this moment is overwhelming. Jarrett investigates Richard's case and finds significant evidence of innocence that was never properly presented. He files appeals, argues before judges, uses every bit of legal knowledge he acquired first in that prison library and then in law school. And in 2018, Largely because of Jarrett's work, Richard Baranek is freed after serving 35 years for a crime he didn't commit. Jarrett Adams, the former inmate, has now freed someone from the same prison where he was held. This is just the beginning. Jarrett continues to take on cases, continues to fight for exoneration. He founds his own law firm, specializing in criminal defense and wrongful conviction cases. He writes a book called Redeeming Justice about his experience and his fight to reform the criminal justice system. He speaks across the country at law schools, at conferences, at prisons, telling his story and advocating for change. Jarrett's work has helped free multiple people from wrongful convictions. The exact number is hard to pin down because wrongful conviction cases often involve teams of lawyers, but Jarrett has been involved in several successful exonerations. Every person he helps free is a victory not just for that individual, but for the principle that the justice system can be challenged, that wrongful convictions can be overturned, that innocent people deserve to be heard. Jarrett also advocates for systemic reforms. He talks about the problems with public defender systems that are underfunded and overwhelmed. He talks about the racial bias in jury selection and in criminal justice generally. He talks about the need for better compensation and support for exonerees who are released after years of wrongful imprisonment with nothing. He speaks from personal experience about every aspect of the system's failures. Jarrett's story has been covered by major media outlets. He's been featured on news programs, in documentaries, in magazine profiles. He's become one of the most prominent advocates for criminal justice reform in America, and his story is uniquely powerful because he experienced every stage of the system's failure and then conquered that system by becoming a lawyer himself. But Jarrett is also honest about the costs of what happened to him. He lost 10 years of his life. He missed his sister's wedding. He missed family gatherings, holidays, normal life experiences that can never be recovered. He suffers from PTSD from his time in prison. He has nightmares. He has moments where he's triggered by sounds or situations that remind him of his incarceration. The trauma of wrongful conviction doesn't just disappear when you're exonerated. It stays with you forever. Jarrett talks about the bittersweet nature of his success. He's grateful for the opportunities he's had since his release. He's proud of the work he's doing, but he would trade it all in an instant to have his 17-year-old self never go to that party, never get arrested, never spend a single day in prison. Justice delayed is not justice. Being proven innocent after 10 years doesn't undo those 10 years. They're gone forever. And there's another dimension to Jarrett's story that's important. He's one of only a handful of exonerees who have become lawyers. Most people released after wrongful conviction don't have the resources or opportunity to pursue higher education, much less law school. Jarrett's achievement is extraordinary, but it shouldn't have to be. The system that failed him should have worked correctly in the first place. He should have had competent legal representation from the beginning. The jury should have been racially diverse. The evidence should have been properly presented. Jarrett's triumph is inspiring, but it's also an indictment of how badly the system failed. And for every Jarrett Adams who manages to prove his innocence and rebuild his life, there are countless others who remain imprisoned for crimes they didn't commit. There are people who don't have Jarrett's intelligence, or his determination, or his access to resources. There are people who will die in prison innocent because the system failed them, and no one was able to help. Jarrett often talks about the other two young men who were arrested with him that night in 1998. They were also convicted and also served time before being exonerated, but their cases took different paths and their post-release lives have been different. Wrongful conviction affects everyone differently. Some people manage to move forward. Others are permanently broken by the experience. This variability is why Jarrett advocates so strongly for better support for exonerees. The state takes years or decades of someone's life through wrongful conviction and then releases them with nothing. No compensation, no counseling, no job training, no help reintegrating into a world that has changed drastically while they were locked away. Jarrett also reflects on the prosecutor and judge and jury who convicted him. He's not consumed by hatred toward them as individuals. He understands that they were operating within a system built on racial bias, on underfunded defense services, on presumptions that favor conviction over justice. The problem is systemic, not just individual. That doesn't excuse their actions, doesn't mean they shouldn't be held accountable, but it means that fixing the problem requires systemic change, not just punishing individuals. As of today, Jarrett Adams continues his work. He's in his early 40s now, the age he would have been if he'd served his full sentence. But instead of being released from prison as a broken middle-aged man, he's a successful attorney, an author, an advocate, a voice for justice. He's married and building the life that was stolen from him. He represents clients who are facing the same injustices he faced. And every time he wins a case, every time he helps free an innocent person, he's proving that the system can be beaten, that truth and justice can prevail if people are willing to fight for them. Before I close, I want you to think about something. Jarrett Adams was 17 years old when he was sentenced to 28 years in prison for something he didn't do. 17. Think about who you were at 17. Think about the mistakes you made, the poor decisions, the times you did something stupid or reckless. Now imagine that instead of learning from those mistakes and moving on, you were sent to prison for almost 3 decades. Imagine your entire youth, your 20s, your 30s, stolen. Most of us would break. Most of us would give up. But Jarrett refused. He used that prison library to educate himself. He fought for his freedom with nothing but determination and intelligence. And then, after winning his own freedom, he dedicated his life to freeing others. That's not just resilience. That's heroism. That's taking the worst injustice imaginable and transforming it into a life of purpose and meaning. Jarrett's story also forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the American criminal justice system. How many Jarrett Adamses are there right now, sitting in prison cells for crimes they didn't commit? How many young black men have been convicted by all-white juries, based on minimal evidence and racial prejudice? How many people are serving decades for things they didn't do because they couldn't afford good lawyers? The statistics are horrifying. Studies suggest that between 2 and 10% of people in prison are actually innocent. Even using the conservative estimate of 2%, that's tens of thousands of innocent people currently incarcerated in America. And those are just the ones who are provably innocent. How many more are guilty of lesser crimes than what they were convicted of, or guilty, but received disproportionately harsh sentences because of their race? The system is broken, and Jarrett's story is both proof of that brokenness and proof that change is possible if people are willing to fight for it. If this story moved you, if it made you angry about injustice, if it made you want to support organizations fighting wrongful convictions, then I need you to act right now. Hit that like button to help this story reach more people. Subscribe to Crown Black Heroes and turn on notifications, because every week we bring you these powerful true stories of resilience and justice. And drop a comment below. Tell me what you think. How do we fix a criminal justice system that allows innocent people to be convicted? What can we do to support ex-honorees who are released after years of wrongful imprisonment? How do we honor Jarrett Adams's courage and continue the fight for justice? Share this video everywhere. Make sure people know about Jarrett Adams and the thousands of other innocent people fighting for freedom. Support the Innocence Project and similar organizations doing this crucial work. Demand criminal justice reform from your elected officials. And remember that every person in prison, guilty or innocent, is a human being who deserves to be treated with dignity. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring about justice. Thank you for being willing to confront the difficult truths about our criminal justice system. Jarrett Adams's story is not ancient history. This happened in our lifetime. He's fighting these battles right now today. And it will only change if we demand better, if we support the people fighting for justice, and if we refuse to accept a system that values convictions over truth. Share this story, honor Jarrett's courage, support the fight for justice, and join me next time for another powerful true story. Until then, stay informed, stay committed to justice, and never stop fighting for what's right. Peace.